Hello friends and welcome to another session of English literature. So friends, today's topic of discussion is Thomas Gray's famous poetry or elegy written in a country churchyard, okay? So in this session, I'm going to discuss the line by line explanation of elegy written in a country churchyard. So as this poem is quite lengthy, total 128 lines are there in this poem. So in this session, I'm going to discuss the first 64 lines, okay? And of course, in one of the upcoming sessions, I will discuss the rest 64 lines, okay? So let's start today's session. So at first, we have to know few important things about this poem. So the real name of this poem is Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard. It is also referred to as the elegy. And the genre is poetry, but it belongs to the subgenre of elegy. Now we have to know that what is an elegy. So an elegy is a form of poetry which is written to express sorrow or lament on the occasion or on the theme of death. So an elegy is a form of poetry which is written to express sorrow or lament on the theme of death, okay? And this poetry belongs to the pre-romantic period and the writer is Thomas Gray, and this elegy published in 1751. As I said before, the total 128 lines are there in this poem, as well as this poem is divided into 32 stanzas. Each stanza consists of 4 lines. Now we have to know another important thing about this poem, which is this poem is partly inspired by Gray's thoughts on the death of the poet Richard West in 1742, okay? Even it is also said that in this poetry, churchyard refers to the churchyard of Stoke Poges near Slough. After Gray's father's demise, Gray's mother and aunt went Stoke Poges. So this incident was also in Gray's thought, and in this connection it is said that Gray took the inspiration or theme of this poem from there, okay? So now let's start the line by line explanation of Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard. So at first we have the first 4 stanzas. Let me read the stanzas. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly over the lea. The ploughman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the side, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight, and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds, save that from yonder ivy-mantled tower the mopping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bower, molest her ancient solitary reign, beneath those rugged elms that yew trees shade, where heaps the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell for ever laid. The rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. Okay, so here the setting is evening time, okay? Here in this line, the poet wants to say that the curfew bell rings to announce the end of the day. Means it is evening time, that means that it is the end of the daylight. So in the evening, we usually see that the farmers, the cattle, all the birds, they go towards their own home, right? So this is the setting. Here the poet wants to say that this is the evening time. The curfew bell rings to announce the end of the day. All the cattle return home in a zigzag course over the meadow. The farmers walk to home with tired and heavy steps. Gradually, darkness envelops the surrounding country, okay? A deep silence on the whole atmosphere is prevailed. And this silence means the silence of the evening, is broken by the droning flight of the beetle and by the jiggling sounds of the bells that tied round the necks of the sheep, okay? The silence is also broken by the hooting of the owl from an old tower which is covered with ivy creepers. Then the poet said that beneath the rough barked elm trees and under the shade of a yew tree in the churchyard, there are graves. Whose graves are there? The graves of the rude forefathers of the hamlet. Here hamlet means small village, and rude forefathers refer to the simple forefathers of the village, okay? So now let's jump into our next stanzas. So here I'm going to discuss stanza 5, 6, 7. The breezy call of incense breathing morn, the shallow twittering from the straw-built shade, the cock's shrill clarion on the or the echoing horn. No more shall rouse them from their lowly bed. For them no more the blazing hearth shall burn, or busy housewife ply her evening care. No children run to lisp their sir's return, or climb his knees the envied kiss to share. Oft did the harvest to their sickle yield, their furrow oft the stubborn glebe has broke. How jocund did they drive their team afield, how bowed the woods beneath their sturdy stroke. So as in the previous line, the poet means Thomas Gray mentioned about the graves of the forefathers of the village. So in these stanzas, he tried to mention that all the forefathers, all the dead persons, they are sleeping an eternal sleep, and nothing can rouse them from their sleep. So as the poet says that neither the soft morning breeze fragment with the smell of flowers, nor the shallows twittering from their straw-built nests, nor the cocks crowing, nor the sound of the hunter's horn will ever awaken them. They means the forefathers, the late forefathers, from their eternal sleep. No one will light fire to warm them on their return home in the evening. As the poet previously mentioned that it is the evening time and everyone returns to their home. So here the poet tries to say that the late forefathers or the late persons will not ever return to home in evening, and no one will light fire to warm them, and no housewives will get the supper ready for them in the evening, or no children run to them to greet them in their childish half-uttered words, or to climb on their knees to be kissed first. Okay, so after this the poet mentioned about the hard works or the previous works that are done by the late forefathers. Okay, so he here said that the ripe corn was often reaped by them with their scythes or scythes. Their plough share frequently broke the hard soil. They led to the field the horses which harnessed the plough merrily, and even they also flung down or felled the tree with their axes. So here in the last four lines the poet mentions the previous works that were done by the late forefathers. Okay, so now we have stanza 8, 9 and 10. Let not ambition mock their useful toil, their homely joys and destiny obscure, nor grandeur here with a disdainful smile the short and smile annals of the poor, the boast of heraldry, the pomp of power, and all that beauty, all that wealth ever gave, awaits alike the inevitable hour. The paths of glory lead but to the grave. Nor you, ye proud, impute to these the fault, if memory over their tomb no trophies raise, where through the long drawn aisle and fretted vault, the pealing anthem swells the note of praise. So here the poet wants to express the view that as death is inevitable, so every man who are ambitious should never look down upon the humble manual labors of the poor peasants, which are essential for man's existence on earth. Their simple pleasures of life were unknown and remain unsung. The wealthy and pompous people should never listen to the uneventful life story of these simple peasants with contempt. Okay, the pride of the noble bird, the splendid display of power, authority, all the advantages of and privileges of being beautiful and wealthy, every person with these things are destined to death. So here the poet wants to say that the glorious of the achievements, the final end of human life is death. Then the poet tries to convey the message that do not ever blame the peasants, the poor, do not ever humiliate them. Okay, so now we have our next three stanzas, stanza 11, 12 and 13. Can story turn or animated burst back to his mansion call the fleeting breath? Can honor's voice provoke the silent dust, or flattery soothe the dull cold ear of death? Perhaps in this neglected spot is laid some heart once pregnant with celestial fire, hands that the rod of empire might have swayed, or waked to ecstasy the living, but knowledge to their eyes her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. Chill penury repressed their noble rage and froze the genial current of the soul. Here the poet wants to convey the idea that no history, no monuments, no statues of the dead person can bring the dead persons back to life. No wars can reanimate the body which is reduced to dust. Even the words which are used for flattery, they cannot please the ear of the dead man. In the village churchyard, there were several dead bodies, but no one cares to visit them. When they were alive, that time some of these men might have successfully ruled empires, and some might have sung charming songs to the accompaniment of a musical instrument. But when these men were alive, cold poverty dumped their noble inspirations and arrested their free flow of their thoughts and desires. Now we have our next four stanzas. Stanza 14, 15 and 16. Full many a gem of purest serene, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bear. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air. Some village Hampden that with dauntless breast the little tyrant of his fields withstood. Some mute inglorious Milton here may rest, some Cromwell guiltless of his country's blood. The applause of listening sinners to command, the threats of pain and ruin to despise, to scatter plenty over a smiling land, and read their history in a nation's eyes. Here the poet tries to bring out the idea that at the bottom of every ocean, every deep ocean, there are countless gems which are beautiful. Even many beautiful flowers bloom, and even they waste their beauty as well as fragrance which are unnoticed by the human beings. In the same way, perhaps in the village churchyard, there lie in eternal sleep some villagers who were fearless, who were noble. Even it is also possible that they were opposed the tyranny of their landlords, as John Hampden. Even in this village churchyard, there was also many people lie buried who were endowed with a great talent of writing poetry like Milton. Even there were also some villagers who had the statesmanship of Oliver Cromwell, but unlike Cromwell, they never shed blood of his countrymen in wars. Then the poet mentioned that some of the poor villagers might have been fearless, but there is no one to pay attention on their works. So this is the main theme of mourning, okay? This elegy is based on a simple theme of death, of the condition of the people after death, and after the death of one person, nothing can awaken the person from the eternal sleep, okay? So I think that I am quite able to explain this elegy. So thank you so much for watching.